Постреливает руками сейчас. Дарина пытается не подпустить этого амбала к себе.
Get ready to see some of the most absurd, unbelievable, and weirdest duels in history. These are the most awkward, unforgettable fights that have ever been recorded. From mind-boggling showdowns in the unlikeliest places to battles that go beyond settling scores, these clashes completely defy all expectations.
Both are trying to punch back, but it's simply too much here.
Join us as we explore the 20 weirdest fights of all time.
Number 20. George Foreman. Comeback.
Well, he could be knocked out if he really hit him. I think George could knock him out if he tagged him.
It was 1975, and George Foreman was a man on a mission. Just a year ago, he had lost to Muhammad Ali in the famous Rumble in the Jungle. That defeat hurt his pride, and now he wanted to remind the world that he was still one of the most dangerous men in boxing. To do that, he took on a crazy challenge, fighting 5 men in one night. For the first fight, Foreman stepped into the ring against Alonzo Johnson, a tough, experienced fighter. Johnson had been around the sport for years, but he was no match for Foreman's raw power. Right from the start, Foreman moved forward like a bulldozer, throwing heavy punches. Johnson tried to move and avoid them, but Foreman's fists landed like bricks. After a few brutal shots, Johnson was out. Foreman barely broke a sweat. Next up was Jerry Judge, a solid journeyman fighter. He knew Foreman was dangerous, so he tried to stay on the outside and jab. But Foreman wasn't interested in a slow fight. He charged at Judge, throwing wild hooks to the body and head. Judge stumbled, trying to keep his balance, but Foreman kept hitting him. A crushing uppercut sent Judge crashing to the mat. Another quick finish. Foreman's third opponent was Terry Daniels, a man who had once fought Joe Frazier for the heavyweight title. He had heart, but Foreman had something stronger: destructive power. Daniels came out swinging, trying to land something big. Foreman barely felt it. He smiled, then launched a monstrous right hand. Daniels' legs wobbled. Another punch sent him spinning. He hit the canvas, and the fight was over. By now, Foreman had knocked out 3 men, but he wasn't tired. He was enjoying himself. Charlie Polite was next, and he had a reputation for being tough. He even talked trash before the fight, saying he could handle Foreman's power. Bad idea. Foreman came out aggressive, swinging with full force. Polite tried to dodge and clinch, but Foreman shoved him off like a rag doll. Then came the punches, huge body shots, followed by a devastating right hook. Polite crumpled. The referee stepped in. Another opponent is down. The last man was Lou Bailey, and he probably knew what was coming. Still, he had to fight. Foreman, smelling victory, stalked him like a lion. Bailey circled, hoping to survive, but Foreman trapped him in the corner. A vicious left hook sent Bailey tumbling down. The crowd roared as the referee waved it off. 5 fights, 5 knockouts. Foreman stood in the ring, arms raised. He had crushed 5 men in a single night. It was a statement. He wasn't done yet. Some people called the event a stunt, but there was no denying one thing: George Foreman was still a monster in the ring. To show how pro athletes have been underestimated, in the next fight, 2 influencers completely dismissed the former world's strongest man and challenged him to a match. What followed left everyone speechless. Number 19. Eddie Hall's total annihilation. Eddie Hall's MMA debut was as wild as it gets, a 2-on-1 showdown that ended in pure chaos. The former world's strongest man stepped into the cage against TikTok influencers, the Nefati brothers, at a World Freak Fight League event. While the Polish twins had the numbers, Hall had the size, outweighing both combined. From the start, the brothers avoided engaging, circling Hall as he taunted them to fight. The crowd grew restless, but when the action finally exploded in round 3, it was absolute carnage. Hall suplexed one brother, then knocked him out cold with a single punch. The referee paused the fight as medical staff carried him out. When it resumed, the remaining twin tried to flee, but Hall chased him down, took him to the ground, and unleashed brutal strikes until the fight was stopped. Hall's next move in MMA remains unclear, but after this bizarre fight, fans are already calling for an even bigger showdown. The next case isn't just a fight, It's a series of matchups against one person, so intense that the government had to step in when no referee could. Number 18. Xu Xiaodong versus fake Kung Fu masters. Many people admire traditional martial arts like Tai Chi for their focus on balance, breathing, and meditation. However, most MMA fighters see these styles as outdated and ineffective in real fights. One fighter, Xu Xiaodong, wanted to prove this. He was frustrated with so-called martial arts masters who made wild claims about their skills. Some people in China even believed these masters had supernatural powers. One of them, Wei Lei, often boasted online about his abilities. Xu challenged Wei to prove his skills, which led to a bare-knuckle fight in a basement in Chengdu in 2017. Xu dominated the fight, knocking Wei out in under 20 seconds. The video spread quickly online, causing an uproar. Many accused Xu of insulting Chinese culture, and his family received death threats. A wealthy businessman even offered a huge cash prize to any Tai Chi fighter who could defeat Xu. Authorities later stopped Xu from fighting another so-called master, Ma Baoguo, who allegedly called the police to avoid the match. Xu also faced bans from organizing fights at his gym. Still, he continued exposing fake martial artists. In May 2019, Xu fought another martial artist but had to wear clown makeup and use a fake name to avoid trouble. His low social credit score made travel difficult, forcing him to take a long 36-hour journey to reach the fight. Chinese search engines even stopped showing results about him. Later that year, Xu faced off against Chen Yong, a Tai Chi master who had challenged him in 2018. The fight lasted only 10 seconds. Xu started with a front kick, followed by another kick and a jab. Chen had no response, and the fight was over. After losing, Chen tried to explain away his defeat with excuses. He said the fight started too early, he didn't have time to warm up, and the unfamiliar setting made him uncomfortable. But none of that changed the fact that Xu Xiaodong had completely exposed him. As soon as he stepped into the cage, Chen noticed the soft flooring. He had trained on hard ground for a year, and he claimed this difference made it impossible to generate power for his Tai Chi moves. When the referee positioned them, Chen realized he was facing the sun while Xu had his back on it. At first, it didn't seem like a big deal, but once the fight started, the bright sunlight became unbearable. The shade disappeared, and he struggled to see clearly. According to Chen, just as he was getting into the fight, the sun blinded him, and before he could adjust, it was over. He blamed the soft ground and the sunlight for his loss. But blaming the sun was ridiculous. He could have moved. The sun wasn't going anywhere, but he had the freedom to reposition himself. A simple step to the side would have put Xu in the same situation. Then there was the warm-up excuse. The whole point of the fight was to prove Tai Chi worked in real combat. If it was effective on the streets, it should work anywhere, warm-up or not. In a real fight, no attacker is going to wait for a warm-up routine. His own words ended up proving that Tai Chi wasn't as practical as he had claimed. The funniest part? A year before this fight, he had challenged Xu in the same cage. He had already been there, he knew the setting. Yet after losing, all he had were excuses. Still on fast victories, the next fight was so shocking it claimed a Guinness World Record for what happened on the canvas. Number 17. Fastest UFC knockout. At UFC 239, history was made in front of a packed crowd at the T-Mobile Arena in Nevada. Jorge Masvidal, known for his aggressive style, stepped into the cage against Ben Askren in what many expected to be a tough fight. But what happened next stunned the entire MMA world. Masvidal wasted no time, setting a record for the fastest knockout in UFC history, just 5 seconds. As soon as the fight started, he sprinted across the octagon and launched a flying knee straight into Askren's head. The impact was devastating. Askren was knocked out cold before he even hit the ground. The arena erupted as fans witnessed one of the most jaw-dropping moments in UFC history. Masvidal's timing and precision were perfect, proving just how dangerous he was. For Askren, it was a crushing defeat. For Masvidal, it was a career-defining moment, one that would be replayed for years to come. But the next fight, even the winner wished it had never happened. Number 16. Gabi Garcia versus Yumo Ha. On December 31, 2060, At the Saitama Super Arena in Japan, a peculiar MMA fight took place between Gabi Garcia, a towering Brazilian fighter, and Yumiko Hotta, a 49-year-old Japanese pro wrestling veteran. The matchup drew attention not only for the significant age and size differences between the fighters, but also for the unconventional events that unfolded.
Punches there by Garcia. Hotta trying to punch back, but it's simply too much here.
As the bell rang, Hotta attempted to energize the crowd by bouncing off the ropes, a nod to her pro wrestling roots. Garcia, initially taken aback by this unexpected tactic, quickly regained her composure. Closing the distance, she unleashed a series of powerful punches and knees. One particularly forceful knee struck Hotta's face, sending her reeling into the ropes. Garcia continued her relentless assault, prompting the referee to intervene and stop the fight just 41 seconds into the first round. The bout was widely criticized for its apparent mismatch, with many questioning the decision to pit Garcia against a much older and less physically imposing opponent. The spectacle was further heightened post-fight when German pro wrestler Jazzy Alpha Female Gabba entered the ring to challenge Garcia, leading to a tense confrontation that was eventually diffused.
I, Jazzy Gabbert, want to challenge you, Gabi Garcia.
In the aftermath, Garcia expressed surprise at Hotta's initial strategy of running and jumping on the ropes, admitting it momentarily unsettled her. Despite the swift victory, the fight was viewed by many as more of a sideshow than a legitimate athletic contest. Funny as it is, the theatrics in this game were nothing compared to what unfolded in the next fight, one that likely came with hefty fines. Number 15. Angry ref moment. In martial arts, referees are there to enforce the rules and keep fights under control. But sometimes even they lose patience. That's exactly what happened in one unforgettable tournament. In a taekwondo match, two fighters were locked in a fierce exchange, ignoring the referee's repeated commands to separate. At first, he tried to break them up the usual way, but they just wouldn't listen. Then something snapped. Without hesitation, the referee, who happened to be a skilled martial artist, decided to handle things himself. In a flash, he unleashed a series of lightning-fast strikes, dropping both fighters to the mat. The crowd went from watching in complete silence to laughing at what they had just witnessed. Security rushed in to contain the chaos, dragging the referee away before things could get any crazier. Not only referees can lose control when a fight goes off the rails, sometimes even pro fighters turn against their corner, and when it happens next, chaos erupts. Number 14. Boxer throws tantrum. Levon Shonya, a Georgian light heavyweight boxer, shocked everyone when he attacked his trainer after losing a fight against the undefeated Spars Janov. Shonya had gone the full distance with Janov, but it was clear he hadn't done enough to win. Frustrated, he seemed eager to keep fighting, even trying to challenge Janov to another round. His coach quickly stepped in, trying to calm him down, but that only made things worse. Out of nowhere, Shonya swung at his trainer, landing a punch on his shoulder. The coach, at first trying to stay patient, responded with a light slap. That only triggered Shonya further, and he threw another wild punch, forcing his trainer to grab onto the ropes to keep his balance. The situation turned into complete chaos as the referee rushed over to break it up. The bizarre scene left everyone in shock, with many wondering what had just happened. Shonya, 34, had already lost most of his recent fights, and after this meltdown, he would likely need a new coach. He also faced possible disciplinary action from the Bulgarian boxing authorities. Meanwhile, Janov walked away with a perfect 10-2-0 record, celebrating his victory at the Armik Arena in Sofia. Away from crazy outbursts in the ring to actual fights, the next matchup was the most unconventional yet. One of the fighters had no business being anywhere near a ring, but that didn't stop what came next. Number 13. Norm Robichaud and Eugene London. The fight between Norm Robichaud and Eugene London took place on May 20, 2013, at Canadian Extreme Cage Rage 11 in Moncton, New Brunswick, Canada. It became well known because Eugene London, who had only one arm, was fighting for the first time in MMA. This was a huge deal, as no one had ever fought in MMA with just one arm before. Eugene London had lost his left arm in a farm accident when he was younger, but that didn't stop him from wanting to fight. He started training in martial arts and eventually decided to give MMA a try. On the other hand, Norm Robichaud was an experienced fighter who had already fought in many MMA events. Robichaud was likely confident going into the fight because he was facing a fighter with a major physical disadvantage. But Eugene London was determined and ready to prove himself. The first round was tough. Robichaud came out strong and tried to land heavy punches on London, thinking he could easily overpower him. But London didn't back down. He moved around the cage and managed to attack while defending himself. London seemed to gain more confidence seconds into the match, so he moved closer to Robichaud and started landing some solid punches. Robichaud, maybe feeling the pressure, couldn't stop London from coming forward. Eventually, London's strikes became too much for Robichaud. He couldn't defend himself properly, and the referee stepped in to stop the fight. Eugene London won by TKO.
Ladies and gentlemen, your winner via TKO, Eugene.
This victory was special, not just about winning a fight, but about Eugene London proving that even with a physical disability, a fighter could compete at the highest level. And if his example wasn't enough, the next fight shattered every notion of what was impossible in the ring. Number 12. David versus Goliath. In Japan. In 1998, Japan saw one of the strangest MMA matchups in history, featuring a 600-pound sumo wrestler against a fighter weighing just 169 pounds. This bizarre fight occurred during Pride 3, a major event in Japan's MMA scene. It was a huge mismatch in size, with Emmanuel Yarbrough, the giant sumo wrestler, towering over Daiju Takase, the much smaller MMA fighter. As the fight began, fans were amazed by the obvious size difference. Yarbrough's size advantage could easily overpower Takase. However, it was Takase, the smaller fighter, who would end up winning the match in a surprising turn of events. The fight lasted 17 minutes, which played a significant role in the outcome. While Yarbrough had size and strength on his side, it became clear that his lack of conditioning was a major weakness, especially against a much lighter, faster opponent like Takase. Right from the start, Takase went on the attack. He carefully avoided Yarbrough's heavy punches and landed a series of strikes from the outside. Yarbrough, despite his strength, struggled to keep up with the pace.
And Hackney dropped Yarbrough with an overhand palm strike to the head.
After a few minutes of trading punches, Yarbrough tried for a takedown but couldn't maintain control as Takase quickly reversed the position. This reversal set up a series of unanswered strikes by Takase, who took advantage of his opponent's fatigue. Yarbrough couldn't defend himself, and the referee stopped the fight, declaring Takase the winner. Takase would go on to fight in many different promotions around the world, including the UFC. He retired in 2015 with a 12-15-2 record. Despite his win, it wasn't the end of Yarbrough's journey in MMA. He fought a few more times, including a match at UFC 3, but sadly passed away in December 2015 at the age of 51 due to a heart attack. So far, we've covered some heroic moments in the ring, but the next fight is an absolute disgrace to the sport. A supposed greatest of all time stepped into one of the most comical fights ever broadcasted. Number 11. Muhammad Ali versus Antonio Inoki. Muhammad Ali had already proven himself as the greatest boxer of all time, but before his legendary third fight with Joe Frazier, he became fascinated with martial arts. He even trained with Jun Rhee, a pioneer of American Taekwondo. Wanting to test himself beyond boxing, Ali agreed to a mixed-rules fight against Japanese wrestling star Antonio Inoki. Ali never wanted to miss an opportunity for a nickname, called Inoki the Pelican. At first, many believed the fight would be staged. Some say Ali initially agreed to a scripted outcome, but later changed his mind, not wanting to deceive his fans. Others claim he originally wanted a no-holds-barred fight, but reconsidered after seeing Inoki's powerful kicks in training. Whatever the truth, the fight ended up being real, but with strange rules. Ali was only allowed to box, while Inoki could use wrestling. Ali could win by knockout, while Inoki could win by pinning Ali for 3 seconds. If Ali touched the ropes, the fight would restart on the feet. The referee was Judo Jean LaBelle, a man who had once won a televised mixed-style fight by choking out his opponent. However, Inoki didn't need to submit Ali, he just had to get him on the ground. He was allowed to use certain throws and sweeps, making the match a throwback to older fighting styles before modern boxing rules limited grappling. If it went well, the fight could have revolutionized martial arts, proving the effectiveness of wrestling against boxing and perhaps paving the way for modern MMA. But that's not how things played out. From the opening bell, the fight was a disaster. Inoki lunged at Ali with a flying kick, then immediately dropped to the mat. What followed was a bizarre display. Inoki scooted around on the ground, kicking at Ali's legs, while Ali, confused and frustrated, taunted him to stand up and fight. The crowd had no idea what they were watching. The chaos stemmed from a last-minute rule change. Inoki was only allowed to kick while on the ground, a rule likely meant to give him a chance if Ali knocked him down. But instead of waiting for that to happen, Inoki decided his best strategy was to stay on the mat and repeatedly kick Ali's legs. Ali, unsure of what to do, danced away, yelling insults, trying to provoke Inoki into wrestling him properly. But Inoki refused. Ali attempted a counter-strategy by trapping Inoki in a corner and stomping on him, but the referee immediately stopped him. Meanwhile, Inoki kept up his leg kicks, even landing shots between the referee's legs. As the fight dragged on, Inoki started targeting Ali's groin, frustrating the crowd even more. Ali's team realized the damage was piling up. Inoki was wearing hard leather boots with metal rivets, and the repeated kicks were taking a toll on Ali's legs. His trainer, Jun Ri, gave him a crucial piece of advice: start blocking the kicks with his shin. This helped, but by then, the damage was done. Late in the fight, Inoki finally tried to wrestle, but Ali was no longer willing to engage up close. Inoki did manage to get hold of him twice, but Ali grabbed the ropes each time, forcing the referee to restart the action. Then, in the final moments of the match, Ali finally landed a hard punch, knocking Inoki to the mat. But he didn't follow up, and the fight ended. The match was declared a draw, and both men moved on with their careers. But the fight left a strange legacy. Instead of proving the power of wrestling, Inoki's strategy made it look weak. Many fans walked away, thinking boxers would always have the upper hand. Worse still, the damage to Ali's legs was severe. He suffered blood clots that required hospitalization. Without Jun Ri's advice to block the kicks, it could have been even worse. The next fight is another prime example of why regular guys should not mess with real fighters. Number 10. 4 guys versus 1 woman. Former UFC champion Miesha Tate settled the debate on fighters versus fit YouTubers with a challenge that left no doubts. Her task? Submit as many YouTubers as possible in just 2 minutes. The setup was simple. Miesha faced 4 YouTubers, none of whom had real fighting skills, and tried to submit them as many times as she could. As expected, she dominated, effortlessly taking them down one by one. One standout moment saw Miesha lift a YouTuber off the ground before locking in a perfect submission, leaving the gym in shock. Her opponents had no chance against her skill and experience, tapping out again and again. Martial arts competitions are meant to be fair, and fighters are expected to uphold dignity, but sometimes that's simply impossible. The next event proved just how far organizers could push the limits of controversy. Number 9. Ninao versus Tattoo. Not every fight is balanced, and one particular match in South America showed just how one-sided things can get. The fight pitted Ninao, an incredibly tall giant over 8 feet, against Tattoo, a comedian who stood just under 5 feet. After suffering a loss to Maria da Carroça the previous year, Tattoo entered the MMA Sertão Combate Octagon at Ginásio O Rivaldão in Patos, Paraíba, hoping to claim his first victory. But his opponent, Ninao, was no easy match. He was a force to be reckoned with, having 4 more fights under his belt. From the start, it was clear that Tattoo was in way over his head. He tried using quick moves to strike Ninao, but it was like trying to punch a brick wall. Ninao's size and strength were just too much for Tattoo. The fight dragged on for 11 minutes, but it wasn't competitive. Tattoo just couldn't land any solid hits, and Ninao controlled the ring from start to finish. In the last round, Ninao finally ended the fight with a massive throw. Tattoo was flung through the air and slammed onto the mat with a sickening thud, landing hard on his back. That was the final blow, and the fight was called off, with Tattoo being carried out on a stretcher by the medical team. The entire match felt like more of a spectacle than an actual contest. The huge size gap made it impossible to see how Tattoo could have any chance against Ninao. Sometimes, even when the matches are right, they still don't have the impact expected on the outcome of the game, as the next case will prove in a way no one saw coming. Number 8. The 7-second knockout. In women's boxing. This fight took place at the Fantasy Springs Resort Casino in Indio, California, and it was a huge event for the WBC Women's Silverlight Flyweight Championship.
The defending and undefeated WBC Women's Silverlight.
The challenger, Miranda Little Beast Atkins, came into the ring with a perfect record of 5-0, with all her wins coming by knockout. She was fighting for a cause close to her heart, raising awareness for ovarian cancer in honor of her mother. Her opponent, Sanissa Superbad Estrada, was the defending champion with a record of 18-0, including 7 knockouts. She was the favorite, and it was clear from the start that her experience and skill would make her a tough opponent. From the moment the bell rang, it was clear that Estrada was on a whole different level.
End this quickly.
Atkins tried to stay active, but her speed and power were no match for Estrada's precision and experience. In less than 7 seconds, Estrada moved in with a fast combination of punches, overwhelming Atkins. One punch landed cleanly, and Atkins was down, stunned by the blow. The referee immediately stepped in, and the fight was over before it even started. Estrada had won by knockout in just 7 seconds, one of the fastest finishes in women's boxing history. After the knockout, Atkins seemed dazed, and the doctors quickly attended to her. Thankfully, she was able to leave the ring without serious injury, but the match was short-lived, leaving the crowd stunned by how quickly it ended. In the next fight, the underestimated underdog shocked the world with a performance that came dangerously close to achieving the impossible. Number 7. Bob Sapp vs. Akihito Tanaka. This fight between Bob Sapp and Akihito Tanaka was truly unforgettable. Bob Sapp, known for his enormous size and strength, knew this would be no ordinary fight. To prepare, he worked incredibly hard, even shedding 20 kilograms to improve his speed. The match was set under dream rules, with 2 intense 10-minute rounds. As soon as the fight began, Akihito Tanaka showed his wrestling skills, trying to bring the fight to the ground. With his experience as a champion in freestyle wrestling in Japan, he was able to control the fight early on, even though his vision was limited by the mask he wore. Bob Sapp used his huge strength to throw powerful punches, but the mask made it hard for Tanaka to move around, giving him a tough time. At one point, Tanaka took Sapp to the ground, but Sapp wasn't backing down. Using his strength, he managed to get back on his feet, ready to finish the fight. The battle continued fiercely, with both men showing incredible heart. Finally, Bob Sapp landed a knockout punch. Tanaka's mask shifted, and the referee stopped the fight, declaring Sapp the winner via TKO after just 5 minutes and 22 seconds. Though Akihito Tanaka lost, he proved his incredible skill and bravery, showing he's someone to watch in the future. Bob Sapp's experience and power earned him the victory, but Tanaka earned plenty of respect for his incredible performance in this unforgettable fight. Tanaka may not have gotten the job done, but one of boxing's fiercest took the opportunity and obliterated it. Number 6. Badr Hari vs. Hongman Choi. The fight between Badr Hari and Hongman Choi was intense and filled with action from the start. Badr Hari had a noticeable height disadvantage against his opponent. Despite the size difference, both fighters were ready to throw down, and the crowd was buzzing with excitement. Choi, aware of Hari's powerful punches, kept his distance early on, trying to avoid getting hit. But Badr Hari was relentless, landing powerful strikes, especially to the body. Choi, though not particularly heavy, had a well-toned physique, and he tried to counter with quick attacks. However, Hari's punches were coming from a distance, making them difficult to dodge. As the fight went on, Choi seemed to struggle against Hari's power.
I think if Choi fights me tonight, it'll be the last time he ever fights.
He tried to fight back with some sharp, quick strikes, but Hari's front kick caught him in the stomach, leaving him hurt. It seemed like the battle was taking a toll on both fighters, and Choi's defense started to break down. Hari, with his experience, kept attacking and forced his opponent into a difficult position. Hari's brutal hits to the body began to wear Choi down, with some punches landing right in the liver area. Choi didn't seem to recover well, and after a strong combination of punches, He seemed to be struggling as it looked like his ribs were injured and he had trouble breathing, which caused him to lose his rhythm. In the end, Badr Hari did the unexpected as he managed to secure the victory against the giant. While Badr Hari was known for putting on a show, the next boxer will be remembered for something far less glorious: an epic fail. Before we move on, here's today's subscribers pick. The image on the screen looks photoshopped and probably fake, right? Well, you might be surprised to know that fights like this actually happen. In November 2022, Darina Mazdyuk, a skilled MMA fighter weighing 62 kilograms, faced Grigory Chistyakov, a 240-kilogram YouTuber and sumo wrestler. From the start, Darina took control. Despite his massive size, Grigory struggled to keep up with her speed. Every time he tried to grab her, she dodged and landed quick punches. She kept targeting his head and body, forcing him to stay on the defensive. As the fight went on, Grigory couldn't land a solid hit, while Darina kept attacking with precision. She took advantage of his mistakes, and after a powerful combination of punches, he crashed to the canvas. The fight lasted just 90 seconds before the referee stepped in, declaring Darina the winner by technical knockout. Do you think the fight was staged? Let us know your thoughts in the comments section below. Number 5. Boxing funniest entrance and knockout. Usman Ahmed became a viral meme in January 2010 after his unforgettable fight with Ashley Sexton. His entrance was ridiculously over the top, cocky, and honestly a little annoying. But somehow it got everyone feeling a mix of excitement and confusion. Fans were hyped, thinking they were about to witness an epic fight. But things didn't go as planned for Uzi. He barely lasted, 3 big hooks from Sexton, and he was knocked out cold in seconds. It was a shocking and unforgettable moment. The next set of fighters showed more heart than Usman, but the match ended in a tragic way that left everyone in shock. Number 4. Fox the G versus Small Spartan J. At Misfits Boxing 12 in Leeds, Small Spartan J faced Fox Townley in what was supposed to be another step in his boxing career. However, things quickly took a turn for the worse. The fight began with Fox using his size advantage and skill, landing a powerful right hand early that shook Jay. Despite his smaller stature, Jay kept trying to close the gap, but Fox was simply too quick and precise. A huge left hook from Fox sent Jay crashing to the canvas. Jay managed to get back up, but his legs were wobbly and it was clear he was struggling. Fox continued to pressure him, dominating with swift combinations and solid footwork. Jay, frustrated, even argued with the referee, but it was only a matter of time before Fox delivered the final blow. In the closing moments of the first round, Fox landed a brutal uppercut, followed by another left hook that knocked Jay unconscious. The impact was severe, and Jay's body twitched on the canvas. Medics quickly rushed in to provide oxygen, and the atmosphere shifted from excitement to worry. Fox, showing respect, held back his celebration, knowing the severity of the situation. Fans who witnessed the knockout were visibly shaken by Jay's condition, but they couldn't help but praise Fox for his flawless performance. In the next case, the winner was met with intense hate after the fight and the organizers. They received even more backlash for the bizarre turn of events that followed. Number 3. One man versus 2 women. At the RXF 46 Gala in Bucharest, Romania, a controversial MMA match took place on May 29, 2024, where Perversu from Targu Okna faced off against influencers Betty Shaw and Roxana Tutsu. The fight ended quickly with a TKO after just 5 minutes, leaving fans divided over the fairness of the match. Perversu was an amateur MMA fighter known for his aggressive style, weighing over 120 kilograms. On the other hand, Betty Shaw and Roxana were both online influencers with no professional MMA experience, each weighing less than 60 kilograms. This huge difference in weight and experience led to a brutal and one-sided fight. From the start, Perversu took control, landing hard punches that rocked both influencers. Despite their efforts, Betty Shaw and Roxana couldn't defend themselves effectively, and the fight quickly became one-sided. After several strong blows, the referee stopped the match, declaring Perversu the winner by TKO.
Oh, don't raise his hand!
The match sparked intense debate in Romania. Many questioned whether it was ethical for such an uneven fight to take place, especially considering the safety risks for the influencers. Some believed it was an unfair show, while others argued it was just part of the MMA sport. Either way, the brutal nature of the fight left fans talking, and it raised serious concerns about the fairness of matches involving fighters with such a big difference in experience and weight. Back to actual fights once again, the next fight made its rounds in 2023 as one of the most entertaining fights of the decade. Number 2. Best Modern-Day Showboating. Ben Whittaker put on a masterclass performance in this light heavyweight contest against Stephen Dre. From the first bell, he established dominance with crisp jabs and sharp movement, keeping his opponent off balance. Dre, who had taken this fight on short notice after sparring with Whittaker in training, struggled to find his rhythm. He turned southpaw a few times, but Whittaker's footwork and reflexes made it nearly impossible for him to land clean shots. Whittaker, meanwhile, landed smooth 1-2s and a powerful right hand that caused swelling around Dre's left eye. In the second round, Whittaker dialed back the showboating and focused on precision, landing a beautiful left hook to the body. Dre kept walking forward but wasn't committing fully to his punches, leaving himself open to Whittaker's counters. By the third round, Dre was visibly struggling. Whittaker's right hand found its mark multiple times, and Dre's face began to show the damage. A sharp combination forced Dre to take a knee, looking toward his corner for guidance. He got back up, but Whittaker sensed the end was near. Instead of finishing the job immediately, he took a moment to interact with the crowd, showing his confidence.
Calls himself the surgeon. Well, that was medieval surgery.
With just over a minute left in the round, Whittaker applied more pressure, landing another clean shot that sent Dre down again. This time, he didn't get up. The referee stepped in, and the fight was over. Whittaker celebrated with his usual flair, proving once again that he isn't just a fighter, he's an entertainer. Speaking of entertainment, thousands of fans enjoyed their money's worth when they watched the next two special athletes face off in a championship contest. Number 1. World's Strongest Dwarf brutalizes opponent. The fight between Brandon Huffman, aka Cowboy Kid Quick, and Jeremy Smith, aka Dynamite, was an absolute war. From the start, Jeremy Smith, the reigning BMFD champion, showed why he's considered the strongest pound for pound in his division. He came in like a wrecking ball, using his insane strength to dominate the exchanges. But Cowboy Kid wasn't backing down. He danced around the ring, staying light on his feet, dodging punches, and trying to outmaneuver the brute force of Jeremy. He knew standing still and trading blows wasn't an option. He had to move or get crushed. The fight was intense. Jeremy kept pressing forward, bullying Cowboy into the ropes and corners, landing heavy shots. At one point, Cowboy hit the mat hard after a throw, face first, but he got back up and kept swinging. He tried to make it dirty, tying up Jeremy, tripping him, and throwing some unorthodox punches to break the champ's rhythm. Round 3 was the deciding moment. Jeremy scored a knockdown, catching Cowboy with a big shot as he went down. That sealed the deal. Cowboy was still swinging, but Jeremy's power was too much. The champ dominated the fight 3-0 and kept his title as the world's strongest dwarf. And that's all for today. Thanks for watching.